Our News on Terror segment tonight, huge foreign policy news. President Trump announced he will meet with North Korean dictator Kim-Jong-un. The president honored the request of South Korean National Security Advisor Jong, who, after meeting with North Korea himself, advised President Trump that Kim Jong-un was serious about giving up his nuclear program. Trump agreed on the spot, and liberals aren't quite sure how to react to this. On one hand, they hate President Trump and refuse to acknowledge any of his successes. But even people like CNN's Aaron Burnett acknowledge how remarkable it would be if Trump gets North Korea to end their nuclear program. Take a look.
Just an extraordinary evening and, of course, opening the door to the big question. If President Trump can truly solve this problem, that would be going down as a great president. And there's no way around that. That is the reality here.
I was watching all the cable news last night, and to all these liberals who are reflexively hating on this, Obama, remember him? Proposed the exact same thing in 2008, and they loved it. And B, you don't live on the West Coast, where a nuke can get here faster than an Uber from North Korea. I mean, what is this? No president has ever done this. Yeah, and they all failed. So I'm going to file this one under so crazy it just might work.
With me now from the Center for Security Policy, Clare Lopez. Clare, good to see you.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
All right, Clare, give me your analysis of this because, what these liberals said is true. No president before has been able to get North Korea in this position, at least willing to talk. What do you make of it?
Well, in the first place, there are now some doubts apparently being reported about the actual wording or the precise statement that was conveyed from Kim Jong-un by way of the South Korean foreign minister to President Trump, and whether, in fact, Kim Jong-un actually is ready to sit down and meet with our president. That being said, I am not 100% certain this is such a great idea. I would go along with what our president, Frank Gaffney, at the Center for Security Policy has said in something he wrote just this morning: hold the champagne. The imagery, the photo ops of the U.S. president sitting down with a tin pot dictator, mass murdering, proliferating regime head of North Korea, I think would give way too much credibility and even some measure of legitimacy to Kim Jong-un. But then aside from that and the whole optics of it all, I think it's important to think about that regime in Pyongyang. There is no incentive on the face of the earth that would get them to give up willingly their nuclear weapons program. I think we are at direct risk from that program, from ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, that we know now can reach continental United States. They're nuclear and, yes, EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapon technology, that they have succeeded in miniaturizing onto warheads that can fit on the ICBMs. Those are all direct, immediate, critical threats that we have to deal with. And taking time out for photo ops and meeting arrangements might not be the best use of time.
Right, and I think that's a fair analysis in a certain sense, especially since the North Korean regime has lied to the past 3 successive U.S. presidents. There's no reason to think that Kim Jong-un would be doing anything other than lying to the president now. And I guess that's my secondary question, is if Kim Jong-un is willing to sit down or express some sort of interest in that. Clearly he sat down with the South Koreans, so there's some willingness or some interest there at least. What would his ulterior motive for meeting with President Trump be? Is he just interested in a photo op that would add legitimacy to his rule?
Partly that, I suppose. I think he probably sees South Korea as a softer touch than our President Trump, whose recent statements today were very much aimed at the North Korean regime and declaring the United States' readiness and ability to counter and to oppose any kind of military threat that comes from North Korea. So the fact that Kim Jong-un was willing to sit down with the South Korean leadership is not quite the same thing as sitting down with President Trump. But I think that what they're doing is what they've done for the last how many decades, and that is buying time. I'm very much concerned that they are on the verge or close to some achievement, some milestone, some point of readiness that they need a little bit more time for. And if they can just string us along for that bit more and hold off President Trump, who's very strong on this, very strong on U.S. Defense issues, can hold that off for a little while, maybe they'll reach whatever that goal is that they have in mind.
Right, and then feel almost as if they had their leverage back. That is interesting. I mean, there are also some analysts who are saying that it could be a last-ditch effort on the part of Kim Jong-un to try to relax some of the sanctions that President Trump has levied against North Korea. President Trump has responded and said, he has no intention of relaxing any of those sanctions, which I consider to be the right thing. Claire, we're almost out of time, but let me ask you one more thing. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was in Africa at the time that this announcement broke. He admitted to the press that he had not spoken to the president about this beforehand. He actually heard about it also on the news when it broke. What do you make of that?
Well, I think this just goes to show again some of the stylistics of this particular president, President Trump, in conducting foreign policy, and the fact that he might make a decision very quickly that he had not had time to fully discuss with all of his senior national security team. But then we saw things being walked back a little bit in terms of conditions, preconditions,
right,
and that sort of thing. So we shall see.
We shall see, and I guess that's where we have to conclude this segment. We shall see what happens. Claire, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.